Actually, the other day, my friend had a birthday, and I ordered a mug for her online and had it sent to my house because I had a card and like some other things to give to her. And it came in this like really big box, and it was like full of those like, they're not styrofoam anymore. They're like dissolvable peanuts that they have now. And so I was like, this box is too big. And so I took it. It was like wrapped in butcher paper and put it in a smaller box with like the other things I had for her, and then just like stuffed some other paper around the side. And then when I got to her house, it was broken. It was in like 3 pieces. No. And I was like, oh, this is why this is full of packing peanuts. Yeah. It was so disappointing.
That is so disappointing. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Where'd you order it from? Like Etsy or something?
Yeah, it was from Etsy, but it's actually from a artist who's local.
Oh,
so
that's cool.
It just like came from down the street practically.
That's fun. I sent a friend of mine a T-shirt. She used to live here and they moved away. I sent her a shirt that says FOCO, and it's from a designer in Fort Collins, which was fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, should we talk about importing recipes?
Yeah, let's do it.
I'm Ronnie. I am the Customer Experience Director for Plan to Eat and also the lead content creator.
And I'm Riley. I'm the Communications Director for Plan to Eat. And today we're going to talk about how we decide what recipes to import into our Plan to Eat accounts.
Yeah, we both have hundreds, if not thousands, of recipes in our Plan to Eat accounts. And a lot of that is obviously for different testing and random things that we do. But we both also use Plan to Eat for our own personal use as well. And the recipes that I actually make, I'm usually kind of picky about the ones that I decide to put into my account.
Yeah, I have a lot of crazy recipes, like you said, that you do, but I try to organize them. I use my courses and tags a lot to help me find the ones that I really want to plan, that I add to my meal plan a lot. I don't know how you do it, but courses and tags are my favorite thing. I have a Recipes We Love course where I put everything that I like into it. Yeah,
I pretty much put anything into my queue. Like after I import it, I immediately put it into my queue so I know that I should like plan it because it's something that I want to actually try. So like my queue is actually pretty full.
Yeah. I find a lot of recipes on Pinterest or just Google. Like if I have a protein or a lot of something in my pantry, I'm like, what can I make with this? And so I'll just Google random like recipes with chicken or whatever. That's pretty boring. But something like that. I'll search for an ingredient. That's how, or social media even, you can find a lot of recipes on social media. The most important thing is going to the actual recipe link where the recipe author has published that recipe and because you'll get all the recipe data once you're there.
Yeah, I run the Plan to Eat Instagram account, and so all of the recipes that are reposted on the stories and stuff like that are ones that I do. And I find a lot of my recipes on Instagram, particularly because we follow a lot of food accounts. So it's just like a feed full of recipes. So I find a lot of them from there. But yeah, Instagram is one of those places where a lot of times the recipe either isn't in the post at all, or there's like a snippet of the recipe in the post. And you have to go all the way into the browser to actually get the recipe with the recipe clipper. So definitely there's like a visual interest portion of it where like if there's a pretty picture of a recipe, like there's a good chance that I'm at least going to go look at it to see if it's something I'm interested in.
Absolutely. Scrolling through our Instagram, the Plan to Eat Instagram, makes me hungry.
Yeah.
Sometimes there is some delicious stuff posted, but that is totally the draw for me too.
Yeah. So like good food photography is definitely really important. We actually follow an account on Instagram that's called Food Photography School, and they like teach people how to do better food photography, like different bloggers and stuff. And I love it because I like to see the behind the scenes of like how food photographers actually get those like beautiful photos with nice lighting and everything. Okay, so when I find a recipe, whether the picture looks interesting or I did a Google search to like find something that seems interesting to me, one of the things that I look for is I always just go to the recipe and look at the types of ingredients that are in the recipe to see if it's something that I'm going to need to buy, 10 extra things for at the grocery store, or if it's pretty simple. I personally really like simpler recipes. It takes a lot less brain power to cook those recipes. It also saves me money if I'm going to the grocery store and I already have half of the things that are in the recipe. Or if it's like kind of an obscure recipe that calls for like sauces that I wouldn't normally use, and so you have to buy a whole bottle of the sauce, but you only need 1 tablespoon of it or something. Like you just end up having a lot of like clutter and extra stuff in your kitchen that I'm not necessarily going to use for any other recipe than that one.
Yeah, I totally am the same way. I tend to have weeks where I want to have something really unique, so I want to buy that red curry, or I want to buy that container of something that is different. But I think it depends, because some weeks I'm really trying to do a more budget-friendly week, and so I am looking at the recipe ingredients and thinking, okay, I have 7 out of 10. I only have to buy these 3 things. Perfect. That's a great one for a budget-friendly recipe week. But then there are some weeks where I'm like, I just want to break out of the norm recipes that we always eat, and I want to get the Indian or something really spicy, or just do something really different. And then that's when I'm willing to like buy those random ingredients. But I do try to then plan a recipe after that uses the same ingredients. So let's just go with the red curry powder. I'll find something with it this week that's a new recipe, and then I'll try to find a recipe that I've made before with that same ingredient. So I am utilizing something that I bought that was extra. And I'll just try to like plan it 2 weeks in a row or something like that. And if we love it, we'll make it again.
Yeah, exactly.
So then that's when I don't mind buying those extra ingredients, but I'm the same way. I scan through to see what I already have or what's inexpensive to add to my list. I'm gluten-free, so another thing that I always do is I look to see if it is already gluten-free or if I can make it gluten-free really easily. If there's a recipe, it just calls for 2 tablespoons of flour. I can sub gluten-free flour super easy and make it gluten-free. For those, I'll often go ahead and tag them with gluten-free, even if they're not, because mentally I know I can make the shift. Or I'll add a comment to the notes, comment to the description, or comment to the comments and notes section that says something like, make this gluten-free, or add this to make it gluten-free, or something like that. We didn't really touch on this yet, but just flavor combinations. If it's a series of ingredients that's something that I know that I like, then I'm much more willing to try it. If it's a new recipe, if it's got some unique flavor things going on in it, I'm like, wow, I don't know how that's going to taste together. Then I had a ricotta and lemon something recipe. I don't remember what it was. And I thought that could be really good or kind of interesting. And I tried it and it was really good. But it was like one of those like branching out kind of recipes. Like, am I going to try this or am I not? But that was one of those weeks where I was willing to try something a little different. But I usually scan and try to think about how those flavors will taste together too.
Yeah. I always have to think about what my husband likes as well. Because, so like I really love like Greek flavors. Like I love the like Greek olive, like Clamato olives, and that, I don't know, just like the Greek
dill
recipe. Dill, like all of those kinds of things, like either like a salad or like things in a pita, like. And my husband doesn't like that. And so I always am like drawn to those recipes, and then I want to plan them, and then I'm like, I know he doesn't, he wouldn't want to eat this. So.
To make it for lunch?
Exactly. But like, it's like I have to like think about like, ooh, like I'm really drawn to this and I think this sounds great, but it's like a lot of times there's things in it that I know he won't like. So then I either will actually import it and like tag it with like my name on it or something, so I know that it's something that is mostly for me, or I just won't even import it because I just know that it's never going to get made.
That's a really good point. Is if your family or your spouse partner is going to like it, that's a really big one. Another thing for me is time. If a recipe, I try to always look, if I'm about to import a recipe or about to plan a recipe, I try to always gauge how long it's going to take me. If it's going to take, an hour and a half to braise in the oven, and then another.
If it's like an ossobuco, you're like, no, can't do this.
Exactly. Exactly. I definitely try to look at time and see if it's feasible, and then I'll also tag it with time or make sure the time imports. So then you can also search to see after it's in your recipe book, you can search to see like recipes based on time. But 30 minutes or less, those are my go-tos.
Yeah, absolutely.
20 minutes would be great.
Right, or like put some things in a casserole dish and then like I don't have to pay attention to what's in the oven.
Crock pot, crock pot, sheet pan, something like that that's fast.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, or throw it all on the grill. That's another one. Yeah.
Yep. One other thing is I personally don't have like an air fryer or an Instant Pot. I know some people like really love those and they, gravitate towards recipes that use those types of like small appliances. But since I don't have those, if I have a recipe that says, like air fryer, I don't know, something I saw the other day was like air fryer avocado fries or something like that. And I was like, that sounds amazing. So I'll look at the recipe too and figure out if I can make it without having like an air fryer. Like, could I bake it instead? Or like if it's an Instant Pot recipe, could I put it in the crock pot instead? Or like, is it specific to that like unique type of appliance, or would I be able to like work around that? And there are some recipes that I found too, particularly for Instant Pot. Well, they'll have instructions for the Instant Pot and instructions for a crock pot. So like that's really helpful. So even if you don't have those appliances, you can still look at the recipe and either see if you can make a workaround for it or if the recipe author has already made a workaround.
So many recipe authors have added a note.
Yeah.
I've noticed it in some recipe authors. It'll be like a lot of asterisks at the bottom, like you can substitute this ingredient or you can substitute this cooking method for another cooking method. It's super helpful. You always want to double check to make sure that imported into your account. You can just copy and paste it if it didn't. But I'm the same way. I don't have an air fryer, I don't have a ton of kitchen utensils, but the ones I do have, I utilize often.
Yeah.
And if I can swap something that looks really good, like baked avocado fries or air fried avocado fries,
really good.
to make it some other way, that would be great. So
Yeah.
it's nice to have those other instructions. So this is how we import recipes. We'd love to hear how you import recipes. What makes you decide that it's the one that you want to make that week? We'd love to hear about it. So throw it in the comments.
Yeah, and thanks for watching. We'll see you guys next time.
Hypothetically, we see a bobcat, because it's like the time of year for the bobcat to be out. It would be hilarious if we're like mid-recording and I'm like, that would be really funny.